But let's focus in the last couple of minutes we got.
Yeah.
Focus on the positive instead of the usual politician stuff, which you don't do. Let's knock on a couple $100,000 and let's say that we got somebody out there that says, "Why should I vote for you again? Why should I give you a couple more years?"
Well, I will tell you, or what I tell voters is, we're better today than we were yesterday, and we're going to be better tomorrow than we are today. The reason I want to participate in the city council for another 2 years is stuff I like to talk about: water supplies, and that's a long conversation. The military, I've been very engaged in keeping the military here and actually growing their presence. And then I have an interest in downtown, and I think we have a plan that, as I say, can move the football down the field on downtown. I think, actually probably regardless of whether I'm here or not, but I can be a part of that, we're going to see good things happen for downtown.
We need you here. It's starting to look beautiful.
Yeah,
starting
we're
to
on the move.
We need a couple more years. Ladies and gentlemen, get out there for Mark because we need a couple more years. We got a minute left, man. I mean, who do you want to reach out there? I mean, it's your show, man.
I appreciate
60
that.
seconds.
You know, it's been interesting. I have a theory that the closer you get to success, the more use the word haters, the more agitated they get, and it's been a really,
agitators, haters.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting campaign. There is a lot of character assassination going on.
Big
so
time.
I would ask the voters to look beyond it, and that means maybe beyond my rhetoric, but just look beyond. Look at what's going on in our community, and I think you'll say, still a lot of work to be done, but we're better today than we were yesterday. And I actually think we have a good team, and I have advocated for the council team. Lillian's got her document on the table. Lillian's a good friend. She's a good city council member. I'm a big fan of Colleen McIntyre. She's the smartest person in nearly every room she goes into. We have a good group of council members, and if we can give us 2 more years, we will move that football down the field.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're out there in the conservative areas, in the right-wing, quote-unquote, areas, I hate to use that term, I think most of Texas are very conservative, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. But when you go out there, do people kind of scratch their heads and say, military, conservative, worked since you were able to walk, and saying, why should we vote for you, not vote certain party lines?
Well, what they want to see is someone that is like them, that has lived the same life experiences they have. And I don't really characterize myself as a liberal Democrat or a California Democrat or something like that. I always call myself a Texas Democrat. And what that means is that as Texans, we are very proud of our individual liberties and our individual heritages and what we've done in the past. And we really want to be able to continue to do our own thing. We don't want the government coming in and telling us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And I think that's a big part of how I try to talk about with them, that there are certain things the government shouldn't be involved in our family and daily lives. And that really resonates with them. And so does the military card. Go in and talk about military issues. Everybody in the country respects our military. They appreciate what they've done for us. And what it does allows me to get in the door with Republicans, independents that vote Republican, and talk about the actual issues facing our community. And there's a lot of issues that are local here. And when you start talking about the local issues facing our South Texas communities, that's what resonates with them. There are issues on the national level that are great to talk about over dinner or with your family or friends and getting a little small argument about, but that really doesn't drive what happens down here in South Texas. We're worried about our bases, worried about our veterans, worried about schools, infrastructure for our ports, water for our farms. That's what the people in South Texas are concerned about.
Cano y güero, no le hace. You have a very broad area to campaign.
Yes, sir.
Those viewers which are within our viewing and earshot, what would you like to tell them, knocking on all their doors? Why should they vote for you over your opponent?
I believe because, number one, I believe in the open door process. I believe that we have to be able to be accessible by the public, whether it's those men that are in law enforcement that are seeking warrants to be signed because other qualities of lives could be affected, that we're available 100% of the time. The fact that I'm bilingual, and that no matter who comes in the court, number one, I'll save the court's money because I won't ever need a translator.
Boom.
And so I think that's very important. And the fact that you have an individual that you can reach out to, someone who's involved, someone that you don't see when it's elections and when it's not elections, somebody you see all the time. I've been involved for many years. Today I serve still on 9 different boards because I believe in giving back. And I think it's about the sincerity of the individual to be able to elect them. And the fact that, number one, if they're educated, you know they're trainable, and the fact that they're willing to learn and open up their hearts and their doors for anybody that's willing to ask the questions.
Okay, look, knocking on 300,000 doors all around. Even San Pat sees you, even Clayburg. Todos mis camaradas hay de San Pat, Jim Wells, everybody reaching out, and on Facebook too.
I know,
We're gonna
Facebook.
Get
Social media has changed the landscape.
It's
of
exploded.
Communication.
We're like putting out push cards to like 4,000 people every time we upload something. So, what do you want to tell those people about why should they vote for you again? Because the stakes are high at large. You got to have a backbone. You got to have courage. Because top 3 vote getters get it. Why should they put you in again?
Well, I want the voters to re-elect me to City Council because I think my theme in 2012 and again in 2014 is New Path to Progress. And Joe, I think that we have just started on that road to progress, those road to solutions. Everybody keeps talking about streets and infrastructure. I think we've just started, but yet more is to be done. On water supply, I think we've just started. At least I know I'm an aggressive vocal voice on council about we need to make sure that we have enough water, diverse water for our residents and our businesses. Again, we've just started on that. I think economic development, the only way that we can help our community is to grow our tax base. We can't keep putting it on the back and the burden on taxpayers. We have to grow our tax base. So I think you have to have an aggressive council that's going to look at the policies, that's going to look at the incentives and the strategies of how we get and attract more new business, but at the same time, we keep the businesses that we already have. The other thing that's really concerning to me, this year, the Commission on Children and Youth put out a report that they did in conjunction with TAMU CC. Overwhelming statistics about low educational attainment, people not graduating, poverty levels, high drug abuse, and juvenile arrests that are happening right here in our county. Comparatively to the state, the trends are off the charts.
But you're turning it around. I mean, you're helping guys like Jags, that
Yes,
want to get educational freedom.
And that's why those kinds of groups, and you said a good thing, we have to collaborate. I think the city has to work in a collaborative mode for solutions today so that we can help make those kids productive and have prosperous lives.
Well, knocking on all Texan doors here that you can share this video with, what would you like to tell them? Why should they vote for you?
I think that we need a certified public accountant in that top accountant's role. If we don't get the numbers right, we won't get anything right. We did not have to fire 11,500 teachers. We just didn't get the numbers right. When we get the numbers right, we'll see that we're a very prosperous state and we can, in fact, have great schools, great public schools.
Knocking on a couple of 100,000 doors here in South Texas, primarily Latinos. What would you like to tell them? Why should they vote for you over your opponent?
Because you know what? You can trust me. I'm fair. I'm looking out after the interests of all Texans, not just Republicans or Democrats, but everybody. And I want to run the office like I've run a 26-year successful law practice, good and efficiently, and give good advice to my clients. That's my promise, and you know what? You're not hearing that from my opponent. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, I think it's important to go forth, go vote. Vote for me. Vote Sam Houston. It's easy to remember. And I think that with this thing, we've got a slate of candidates on the Democratic side that we're all getting all of the endorsements from. We're getting all the support from Wendy Davis to Leticia to myself to Mike Collier to Steve Brown to John Cook. It's a very impressive array, and I'm proud to serve with them. But I'm running my race very hard too. All of us are out there, but pulling together, I think we can do better for Texas, and I hope the voters remember that.
Well, you heard it. Sam Houston running to be your Attorney General. And if a lot of people are saying, oh, God, Madrigal, McCoy, both of them have been in that court. Why should they vote for you over her? In other words, I guess the bottom line here is when the rubber hits the road, why are they going to cast a ballot for you instead of her?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of it comes down to judicial demeanor, and I believe in that sense I'm more qualified. I've had more life experience in situations with working with children than my opponent, and I think I'll work well with others. The court I get along with everybody at the court. You're going to have a safe, easy working environment. Not only that, but I'm the father of 2 children. I have a 5 and a 9-year-old. You've met them, Joe, and they're great kids. And
they didn't destroy any property here at the office. Thank God.
Right, and I think if you're going to empathize with children and empathize and make decisions regarding children, I think that's a big deal. I think it helps to have raised children before, and I think that's a big a big difference in my opponent and I. I've got the experience in that court. There's no question about that. I'm in there day in, day out.
We got about 3 minutes left. The floor is yours. What do you want to tell the voters? What are the important issues? What makes you passionate? Especially, we know you have your base, right? But sometimes in the Democratic Party, we don't know who's Shiite and Sunni. You know what I mean? So every vote counts. But also the base there, a lot of people say, oh, don't even go to Port Aransas. Don't go in certain parts of Ocean Drive. Those are just going to be pull the lever Republican. But are you finding that true as you're block walking?
I don't find that's true. And during block walking and also attending so many events at different houses and different people, meeting different people, I'm finding that that's not true. They want to meet the person. They want to talk about your experience. It's no accident and not a coincidence that I've been endorsed not only by the Corpus Christi Police Officers Association, the Nueces County Sheriff's Officers Association, the Caller Times, and the Labor Council, as well as the American Federation of Teachers, is because I able to when I speak to people, make them understand that we're not going to lower the bar, we're going to raise the bar of expectations for kids. You have to meet this bar. We're not going to make our society better by lowering the expectations of what we expect you to do. Okay. There's been and the reason I'm running for this office is because not only juvenile, but there's child protective services. We have parents that we need to hold accountable. If a child is injured, if a child is hurt, and the parent's not willing to change their life and to follow the service plan that's dictated to them, we can't have these kids at risk. As young as you work cases, days old, all the way up to 16, 17, 18. We need to protect our families, and we need to make sure that it's done correctly by somebody that has experience and that somebody has lived in this community and knows what is happening with our families.
Say that Democrats vote by the palanca, by pulling the lever, but actually looking statistically, they'll go out and vote for the Republican. Why should Republican voters vote for you instead of Lloyd Neal?
Well, I believe that they can count on me to maintain a budget and to be honest about what I'm saying. Lloyd Neal's a good fellow, don't get me wrong, but when he was mayor, he asked the voters to approve bond money to repair the streets, and obviously that must have gotten put into a general fund because our streets are a disaster. And the next mayor comes in, and that mayor has to, take the brunt of it, and the mayor that follows after that. So I believe that if we put a bond issue out there, and we say that it's for the repair of the streets, that we use that money for that. I think that if we put a bond issue out that is for education or to do a fire station, that we need to use it for that. And that if not, then after a while you don't believe it, and then you don't want to vote for the issue. You don't want to vote for the bond issue because you no longer believe that it's going to be used for that. And so I think there's a real issue there. I think that because I'm a person that enjoys being with people, and I enjoy listening to people, and I enjoy working with people, I think that's a big difference. I think our county judge has a clique that he works with, and maybe doesn't feel too secure outside that clique. And I'm more open to receiving suggestions and working with people.
Knocking on a couple of 100,000 doors right now, because I know you don't have the time while you're administering, there at the county, but knocking on and coming into the doors of 200,000 viewers.
Yeah.
Why should they vote for you and not your opponent?
Well, if you look at my signs that are on the side of the road, it said experience counts. And in this job, it's possible to come into this job without any previous experience of running anything. You know, my 8 years as mayor gave me good training on how to be a good public official and run the meetings and understand that. But more importantly, the relationship building that I have done over the last 8 years with all the elected officials in this area, both at the county and the cities, and I get along fine with the cities, and the federal and state. The county judge in every county is the chief elected official for emergency management. I take that responsibility very seriously. Who makes the call on evacuation? The mayor and I do. If a mayor says no, then I trump that. I have been preparing for that all my life. 30 years in the military, 8 years as mayor, 8 years city, 8 years as the county judge. That's a terrific responsibility, and we've worked to improve our emergency management section in 1,000% since I've been county judge. And so those are things that I think you can't just ignore. And I hope people look at this and say, this guy's been there, done that, but he's done a good job. He understands the job, and I certainly do. And I'm prepared to take this thing on for another 4 years.
Knocking on a couple of 100,000 doors right now. Why should they vote for you and not your opponent?
Well, for one, I hear a lot, well, your opponent really hasn't done anything that horrible. Other than switching parties, he hasn't really messed up.
Okay.
Well, I don't understand that logic in the sense that he really hasn't done anything either. There's not really anything we can point to say he's really been effective for our district.
Even when he switched to Republican.
Exactly. He's been on the right side of issues in the sense that he voted against the cuts as Democrat, yet then switched parties and went to the Republican Party, which was mainly responsible for that cut to public education. And, my attitude is just being there isn't enough. Experience does not equal being qualified. And just because he's been there and hasn't had an opportunity to mess anything up, that doesn't mean anything to me. I want somebody who's going to be effective. I want somebody who's going to make changes in our community that are going to represent our needs and our wants, and that's just the person that I am. As Texans, we always say, we're the best state, we're bigger, we're better, and I have that attitude, and I'm proud of that attitude. I think it's great. But when we have that attitude, we need to back it up. If we're going to tell everybody we're bigger and better, then let's be bigger and better. Let's have the best public education system we can have, and all the other states around us saying, you know what, they're doing it right. I want our schools to be like Texas schools. I want our healthcare system to be like that in Texas. If we're going to deny our citizens extended coverage for Medicaid, why do we keep closing clinics? Why are we trying to shut down all of the needs that our citizens need? This is something that needs to be addressed from a variety of vantage points. There's just so many things that we need to work on, and let's be the best, but let's get it done. If we're going to have that attitude, let's do it, and let's really legitimately be the best.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's do some block walking, knocking on 200,000 registered voters' doors right now for the Time Warner subscribers. What would you like to tell them? Why should they vote for you opposed to the other guys that are running at large?
Well, first of all, with the campaign at large, it's the top 3 vote getters. So it's more of select the people that closely relate to what you want your city to become, meaning the decisions that we make every single day on city council shape our future. And so in the last couple of years, you've seen Corpus Christi in the best performing cities list with the Milken Institute, which does a review of all cities in America every year.
That.
We jumped from number 44 best performing city to number 17. That's 27 spots. We are 5th in the nation in 1-year job growth. We are 10th in the nation in 5-year job growth. There's no doubt that Corpus Christi is in a boom. What we need to do is elect people who understand how to dig in, reinvest in our infrastructure, and focus on extending that boom instead of those who put their feet up and ride the wave.
Very well said.
And so I ask for your support, everyone in the viewing audience. I know a lot of people watch your show, specifically, and online too. I've had people call me up and say, hey, I saw you on Joe's show, and all I ask is for your support. for City Council at large. Allow me another 2 years to serve the people of Corpus Christi.
Really quickly, if people want a yard sign, want to go block walk with you, want to just learn more, what is the magic number to call?
Okay, 792-0332. That's my cell phone, 792-0332.
Habla español también, se aventa el chavo.
Entiendo más mejor que hablar, pero
pero-
tenemos una oportunidad en nuestra comunidad como nunca antes, like
Ándale,
never
buen
before.
dicho.
And we need good people who will speak up for the people, and I am that candidate, and I hope to continue to serve the people of Corpus Christi.